333 for Justice Southbury's peaceful rallies. I would like to start with a moment of silence for the lives lost at our neighbor Sandy Hook 10 years ago this week. Thank you. For the last couple of weeks, we've focused on what group action can do in the face of local acts of hate and injustice. This week, we turn our attention to what group action can do in the face of larger injustices. Time magazine just named the women of Iran as 2022's Heroes of the Year for their ongoing uprising, which started as an outcry against enforced dress codes and has grown into the largest and most sustained protests since the start of the Islamic Republic in Iran. The uprising is now in its 4th month. The people have shown that protests can be a kind of conversation, a way for individuals to collectively make demands which have no other effective channels. Does that sound familiar? For context, we have 2 really special presentations this afternoon. Our first speaker is Gil Murrow. Gil is the vice president of a craft union representing camera, lighting, audio, and visual technicians at NBC and with the NBA. He was previously employed as a technical director at NBC for such productions as NBC News, The Today Show, Conan O'Brien, and Saturday Night Live. Gil now freelances at CBS for Inside Edition and The Drew Barrymore Show. Gil has been an active supporter of women's rights and diversity as a member of the Baha'i Faith for more than 30 years. He spoke to us at our first anniversary in the pouring rain, and he comes back in the snow. So please welcome back to Justice Southbury, Gil Murrow.
Woo!
Thank you very, very much, Rick. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you as a social activist, and I'm a staunch union supporter. But today I'm here as an emissary for women and equality. At this time, my close friends, Shiva, Nika, Azita, Ladan, Roya, Muni, Mojde, and every other woman who are oppressed and prevented from speaking out of fear of retaliation to their family and themselves. Now, so there's no confusion. I'm a Mexican, I'm American, I'm Mexican, Mexican-American, and they are Persian Americans, okay? And so here's a poem by a 19th century activist, and she says it best. Look up, our dawning day draws its first breath. The world grows light, our souls begin to glow. No more spells, no more ghosts. Good riddance, we are done with folly's show. The search of truth shall drive out ignorance. Equality shall strike the despots low. Let warring ways be banished from the world. Let justice everywhere its carpet throw. May friendship, ancient hatred reconcile. May love grow from the seed of love we sow. And that's by Tahereh, the pure one. If I ask you what happened in Seneca Falls in July 1848, likely every single one of you can answer the first ever convention for women's rights. If I asked who the organizers were, most of you could probably correctly shout out Lucretia Mott, Elizabeth Cady Stanton. But how many of you out there know concurrently there was a convention, a conference took place in another part of the world that holds as much importance for women's rights as the one in Seneca Falls. In Persia, present-day Iran, adherents of the new religion, a precursor to the Baha'i Faith, convened in 1848 as well. It would be an understatement to say that they were astonished when the world's first female disciple of women's liberation, Tahereh, stepped unveiled from her tent into the midst of her male co-religionists. She stands before them unveiled, her face is bare. She is breaking the greatest taboo of her nation. It is unthinkable that a young woman at her high status, she is a poet, a scholar, revered by many as a saint, endowed with wealth, impeccable lineage, family connections, should reveal to some 80 men who are not related to her even as much as an eye, a hair, a whisper, the curve of a cheek. Yet here she stands, her beautiful face adorned as for a wedding, her veil torn asunder, reft of tradition, rent by her own hand, and then by her own voice as she proclaims with ecstatic clarity, this is the day of festivity and universal rejoicing, day which the fetters of the past are burst asunder. Let all who have shared in this great achievement arise and embrace each other. Tahereh stands apart from other holy women, since she discarded her traditional roles, invaded male space, and one of the leaders of a movement that proclaimed that women are equal to men in the sight of God. She stood before them, radiant, with an inward and outward beauty. I am the blast of the trumpet, she cried out. I am the call of the bugle. Some that day recall the words of the prophecy which foretold the day the promised one, Fatimeh, daughter of the Prophet Muhammad herself, would appear unveiled before them. Others may have remembered the sound of the bugle and the stunning trumpet blast promised in their own books in the last days. Here was Tahereh, came without a veil over her face, a man so shaken who had never witnessed a public display as this, cut his own throat. Tahereh's appearance was like a thunderbolt. Tahereh received her education through attending courses given by her father and uncle. Many times in lectures attended by over 200 students, she would be attending, but being female, she would sit behind curtains. It was not unusual for her to voice her disagreement with her father and her uncle by bringing up convincing proofs. Soon she became known among the students as a very learned person. She outdistanced her brothers in progress, but being a woman, she was not given any degree and had no place in ecclesiastical hierarchy. So many times her father stated how he wished she was a boy who would succeed him and bring more prestige to the family. In the stormy month of August in 1852, in the dead of night, they strangulated the beautiful and talented poet and cast her body, clad in a wedding dress, into a pit without a trace. To this day, nowhere is the body can be found. She was 36 years old. Her career was as dazzling as it was brief, and as tragic as it was eventful. What other women except Tahereh in those days had the courage, erudition, and eloquence to address and confound the religious leaders who ranked women slightly higher than animals? Whoops. And they even considered that they did not have a soul. At the final hour, she told them, you can kill me if you wish, but you cannot stop the emancipation of women. This is 1848. They strangled her with her own scarf. Her fame spread far and wide in the capitals of Western and Eastern Europe. Her sacrifices and influence meant more to women than that of Joan of Arc. Her admirers are many throughout the continents. They are eager to know more about her, memorize her poetry, set it to music, but more than that, to emulate her. May the future historians do justice to her accomplishments and influence. This activist has inspired the Tahereh Justice Center, an example of women's strength in Persia at a time when most women were kept illiterate and hidden from public sphere. The Tahereh Justice Center, founded 25 years ago, offers free legal services primarily for female immigrants fleeing related. Now we're in 2022 now. Listen to what this Tahereh Justice Center is charged with. Violence against women, female genital mutilation, cutting, forced marriage, honor crimes, human trafficking, rape, torture. In its own country, they have offices in Falls Church, Baltimore, Atlanta, Houston, San Francisco, offer free legal services and have helped over 31,000 women fleeing gender-related violence to secure asylum and protection and save their lives. At Tahereh, serving immigrant survivors of gender-based violence in the United States is their focus. Against the backdrop of appalling statistics, thousands of women and girls are showing extraordinary courage and refusing to be victims of violence. Shouldn't we do everything we can to support them? Look what is happening in Iran today. Iranian writer and activist and artist living in Germany, Yasmin Shakari, she's a star in The Magic Flute. Yasmin says it best, excuse me. Who am I? A born Berliner, a daughter of Iranian parents. Always up for a joke as a means to cope. Underneath the joke, there is sadness. A sadness for a long time I had trouble explaining. As a child coming home from school, I caught my parents. Let him pass. Life goes on. As a child, my parents listening to classical Iranian music, lyrics in Farsi, I could barely understand them. But as a young girl, I learned something in these afternoons. I learned to read the room. These children cause children notice every heavy breath screaming from the parents' chest. I could sense the density and the heaviness in the air. I physically felt the energy of loss and nostalgia and belonging that filled our kitchen and hallways and living room. Way before I saw the teary eyes of my father sitting in an armchair listening to what felt like a long-lost love. Iran, to me, a girl born in Berlin, the summer of '79, the year of Islamic Revolution, making it ideological impossible for my parents to return. Iran, to me, was an ongoing present past. Iran, to me, is a desperate clinging to something long lost. Iran, to me, was losing my grandparents without my parents or me being around. Iran, to me, has been pain. Epigenetics is what they call it. The passing over trauma experience to the next generation without the young ones going through the experience themselves. Why can't we relate to the loss of home when Iran has never actually been our home? I believe it is this pain that unites the diaspora. It's been over 40 years or more because the Shah monarchy installed by the Western politics also censored, incarcerated, and tortured our people. Countless decades of pain are erupting within us. We are helpless as we helplessly watch our people to Kurdistan Zandazan fighting for a dream that we have been close to burying within us. All of a sudden it comes back. The schoolgirl is now in her 40s, and her handsome young teary-eyed engineer in the armchair is now a retired, beautiful gray-haired man turning 80. And now I'm in a hurry. We're in a hurry to make this dream come true before those who deserve to be relieved of their longing leave this earth without it happening. The dream of my parents is once again to walk the streets they fell in love with and the first kissed in, to see the buildings of their childhood without the faces of political leaders covering its walls, defacing every beautiful memory with their presence, trying to cover up their identity and the individuality of every woman and young girl behind the mandatory hijab. We are in a hurry to know that our people are safe. And when I say our people, I mean all the people. I mean every Iranian, Kurdish, Azari, Hazari, Baha'i, Tajik, Pushtan, every Jewish, Christian, every atheist, every LGBTQIA, every man, woman, and child, every animal. We are in a hurry to know that we are safe and free. We are in a hurry at this time as the union of the people is stronger than its regime and its dictators. We are in a hurry to turn this moment, this feminist revolution that has been born and screamed into this world by Kurdish women, into a gate opener for the future worldwide, which every dictator and murdering leader would rather see a woman's dead body than a strand of her hair, is overthrown by the power of unity of people. When Afghanistan took Ukraine, from Yemen to Iran, we are in a hurry to prove to ourselves that good can prevail. When half of the United States decided to overturn Roe versus Wade, many making abortions illegal in 2022, I hope for a similar culmination and eruption of anger, protests, and feminist revolution on American streets. Some rebelled desperately. Some tried really hard, but were not supported. But out of all the people, the Iranian Kurdish women would set an example. They are sacrificing their lives at this moment, little girls up to grown women, and they teach the world a lesson in feminism. It makes it strange and unfamiliar for some. Let us watch and learn from the Shizan, lion women, and the lions behind them. As our people fight this fight in absence, we won't stop fighting other injustices. We see this revolution as a symbol for all that work that needs to be done everywhere. Thank you, everyone. Every single one of you who bothers to show up and understand that one oppressed soul puts all of us in chains. If we don't fight our way back to empathy, the ability to feel the pain of another being, then as a species, we have failed. Let us be in a hurry to be human. Currently, 4 to 5 million Iranians are living in the diaspora all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Woo!
I have a gift for Anna and her sister.
Here.
Anna, I'm so impressed. The youth in that country now are sacrificing their lives. my friends, their families are under stress and being killed and have disappeared. So, and some of their close friends in that country. It's a horrible situation. So, I have made this for you, Anna, and your sister. This is Tahirih, an image of Tahirih. We don't really know what she looks like, but it says, "You can kill me if you like. You can kill me as soon as you like, but you cannot stop the emancipation of women." It's got the date, approximate date when she was murdered. This is for you and your sister. And a booklet describes our view on equality movement. And from my daughter, who also is a victim of violence, is a shirt with her favorite quote: "Let your vision be world-embracing rather than confined to your own self." Starting to feel the emotion of the moment. And here also is a copy of the poem that I wrote. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Gil.
Yeah, thank you.
Those lines of Iran are truly inspiring. The current wave of unrest in Iran was sparked by the death of a 21-year-old woman, Mahsa Amini, at the hands of the dreadfully named morality police. This week, Iran executed the first protester since the mass demonstrations began, a 23-year-old man named Mohsen Shekari. The young woman was 21, Julia's age. The young man was 23, Sindri's age. When you think about these lions, they are us, they are our children. They are heroes, and they are being heard. An Iranian government official declared last week that the morality police would be dissolved, and while the true effect of that statement remains to be seen, as written in recent articles in the journals Foreign Policy and American Purpose, one fact is becoming clear, quote, "For many Iranians, the Islamic Republic is irredeemable," end quote. These articles note the emergence of a young, global-minded Iranian generation who, quote, "wish to live what they call a normal life as citizens of a global community whose values and lifestyles they wish to follow." One of those young Iranians now lives abroad in Europe, and he's a friend of Anna and a friend of Sindri. To tell his story, please welcome my daughter, Anna Bauer Richardson.
Woo!
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Just to protect the safety of my friend, I'm just going to refer to him as my friend. My friend grew up in Iran. He got his Bachelor of Science in Molecular Genetics in Iran before leaving in 2018 because he was due to serve his mandatory 2-year military service, where he would be sent to the border of Afghanistan or Pakistan, both dangerous places. My friend did not want to have a gap in his studies, nor did he like the thought of even having to hold a gun. So he left and went to Malaysia, where he pursued his master's degree. 1 year ago, he moved alone to a European country where he is now pursuing his doctorate in molecular neurobiology. My friend's parents and sister are still living in Iran. His father has a political history and was among the academics who were forced to retire during the Green Movement in 2009. His parents were very supportive of him leaving and not going to the military. My friend describes what is going on in Iran today as the culmination of anger growing for many years. Anger over the dichotomy between Islam and the Iranian culture. Anger over the mistreatment of women, of the LGBTQIA+ community, of liberals, and of racial minorities. anger because of the currency collapse and the financial consequences of the nuclear program. And my friend describes being angry for having to keep relationships secret because you will be arrested if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend. This anger has been building and building. Masa Amini caused the anger to boil over and people to storm out in protest. But my friend said that this time the protests seem different. In the past, the regime offered a little money or even just a free meal to uneducated poor people to burn the Israeli or American flag, which would then be broadcast in the media to support the narrative of Iranians being aggressive conservatives, which, my friend says, is not true of many Iranians. In fact, when the US beat Iran in the World Cup a few weeks ago, people celebrated in 30 cities across Iran. Now, because of the internet, the government has lost the support of even those uneducated, poorer people. People now have access to information, and as my friend says, they, quote, can see the reality, end quote. This is part of why my friend thinks the regime is not smart. He said, quote, North Korea was smart enough to not let people get connected to the internet, but the Islamic Republic is not even good at dictatorship, end quote. With the current generation being influenced more by Hollywood than the regime's media, the government has lost its understanding of how to connect to the masses. The Iranian leaders still use the same rhetoric that they did 43 years ago, but so much has changed since then. Therefore, there is a huge gap between the people and the government, and it has become almost impossible for the government to manage what is going on. Another important feature of the current protests is that people are protesting very peacefully. My friend says that they chant, "Women, life, freedom. Political prisoners must go free," and "No to execution." Girls and women lead the protests. But my friend worries that women will lose the respect they have gained from standing up for their rights if the next government is not democratic and progressive. I told my friend about what we have been doing here at Justice Southbury. He reminded me that people across the world have more or less the same values. We all want to be respected, we all want certain freedoms, and most of us want these things for others as well as ourselves. Just as we are paying attention to and praying for the people involved in the protests in Iran, the people in Iran are watching what goes on in the US and lit candles after 9/11, just as they do for the Black Americans murdered by police officers. My friend wanted me to share the following about how we as a group could help support the movement in Iran. He said, quote, "I think the most important thing is to remind people that the Iranian regime is not representing the people of Iran. All of the people in the world are smart enough to value peace and freedom. If you want to know what a young Iranian wants for his or her life, just think about what you want for your life. It is the same." He continues, "What you are doing is really valuable. You have basic human rights, and yet you still support it in other communities. When we are born, we do not have the mindset to hate others. Politics can program us to hate each other, and people like you all are working hard to deprogram. I hope all countries can make peace with each other and start to talk about the earth instead of countries." End quote. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you, Una, and thank you, Ines, for one quick announcement from Tara. She says, be on the lookout for an announcement regarding a book discussion group. We'll have 2 titles offered, and we'll have in-person discussion groups. Finally, for today, I wanted to note that Congress this week passed the Respect for Marriage Act, mandating federal recognition for same-sex and interracial marriages. As our House Speaker said, quote, "Today we stand up for the values of the vast majority of Americans hold dear, a belief in the dignity, beauty, and spark of diversity in every person, and abiding respect for love so powerful that it binds 2 people together. Although it's usually heralded as a same-sex marriage bill, it also applies to interracial marriages, which leads to my last point today. A message that I received this week on social media, a direct message, private, from someone I'd never heard of before, who said to me, quote, "Thank you for all that you're doing. Justice Southbury is what makes me hopeful raising biracial children in this town." End quote. Ed.
I really came just to help anybody out who was looking for a last-minute gift, because I still have some of my books left. But in listening to what Anna and Lee said, I think it is just so important that we keep reminding people that here in Southbury, people stood up, just like people are doing in Iran today, as they did 150 or 250 years ago. I can't do my math. We did it here too. And I can't tell you how good it felt, despite what happened the last couple of weeks, to see the report on the NBC when they talked about the hateful things that happened here in Southbury. But at the end, as a counterpoint, they reflected on the fact that it was in this community that 85 years ago, we had people, and the only community, that gathered together to work in conjunction with each other to stand up to hate and fear by saying no to the Nazis. So having that story and having it here, having it known and talked to our children, I think gives them the strength to know that you can stand up to hate and fear, and not only can you do it, you should do it. So have some books. If you're really desperate for a gift, I'm here. But I think this story has been a gift to this community, and that's why we need to keep telling it to ourselves and everyone else we can. So with that, you want me to fire them up?
Yes. No,
Oh,
no.
you got somebody to
Go
fire 'em
ahead,
up?
Ed. Go ahead. Go
You know, I've
ahead.
never done it.
Oh.
I've dreamt about it, but I've never done it. Let's see. Got to take my gloves off for this. You know, it seems so easy when I watch Julia do it. Are you fired up?
Fired up!
You ready to go?
Ready to go!
Fired up?
Fired up!
Ready to go?
Ready to go!
Fired up?
Fired up!
Ready to go?
Ready to go!
Let's go change the world and show them that hate has no place here in Southbury.
Thank you. Finish?